The concept of the heavenly dew serves as a fascinating esoteric counterpoint to the historical and fictional hellfire clubs of the 18th century. While the latter were defined by their pursuit of hedonism, political subversion, and black mockery of tradition, your vision for the heavenly dew flips the script, focusing on subtle, benevolent intervention and the white magic of the archangels. Core philosophy: the alchemy of intent. Unlike traditional secret societies that aim for the levers of power, the heavenly dew operates on a metaphysical frequency. Subtle seeding: rather than forcing change through legislation or industry, members plant seeds of intuition. A man might suddenly feel the urge to be more charitable or find the clarity to resolve a long-standing conflict, never knowing the dew had a hand in it. The principle of free will: this is the society's most critical safeguard. The archangelic rituals do not override a person's nature. They simply amplify the good news already present in their soul, allowing their best version to manifest. The 5 pillars of the society: pillar focus, manifestation, purity of right, archangelic invocation, high vibrational rituals that cleanse the atmosphere of a city or region, anonymity, extreme secrecy. Members do not seek credit. The goal is for the good luck to appear natural. Moral selection: the good men. Only those with existing virtuous foundations are chosen as vessels for the seeds. The rhymes harmonics: using poetry, song, or good rhymes to align human speech with divine frequency. 1/20/26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 146 Pillar Focus Manifestation. The dew divine grace, the belief that goodness should fall softly and refreshingly like morning dew. The white rituals of the archangels. In this society, magic is not about control, but about alignment. The white rituals likely draw from traditional celestial hierarchies, focusing on the specific attributes of the ancient protectors. Michael's shield: rituals for protection and the courage to act on good intentions. Gabriel's clarion: the dissemination of good news, enhancing communication and the spread of truth. Raphael's balm: subtle healing of the spirit, turning good men away from bitterness and toward growth. Uriel's flame: providing the light of sudden insight or good luck that seems to come from nowhere. Cultural non-interference: the most intriguing aspect of the heavenly dew is its refusal to touch economics or culture directly. It operates in the pre-material realm. By the time a culture changes or an economy shifts, the dew has already finished its work. It doesn't move the hand that signs the check, it moves the heart of the person who owns the hand. This creates a butterfly effect of goodness. By influencing the internal state of individuals who worship good times, the society ensures that the world improves organically rather than through the forceful ego of a secret cabal. To expand upon the heavenly dew, we must look at it not as an organization of men, but as a celestial irrigation system. While the hellfire clubs of old sought the basement of human experience, darkness, debauchery, and the subversion of 2020's 12 p.m. Google Gemini 246 law, the heavenly dew seeks the canopy. It operates on the frequency of the atmospheric divine, ensuring that the soil of the human heart remains receptive to grace. The high ritual, the precipitation of grace. This is the society's primary white ritual. It is never performed for personal gain. Its sole purpose is to saturate the local ether so that good men are struck by lightning bolts of sudden virtue or fortunate timing. The mechanics of the rite. The vessel: a silver chalice filled with water collected from the morning mist of a sacred or high-altitude location. The timing: the hour of the rose. The intent: to act as a lightning rod for archangelic frequency, grounding it into the physical world without violating the laws of nature. The invocation of the 4 quarters. The celebrant stands at the center of a circle drawn not in salt, but in crushed flower petals facing east. By the breath of Raphael, we clear the air of shadows. May the wind carry the scent of a new beginning to the man who struggles with his heavy heart. By the fire of Uriel, we ignite the spark of the lucky find. May the light reveal the path to the man who seeks to build and not destroy. The good rhymes, lyrical seed sowing. In the heavenly dew, language is a technology. Good rhymes are short, melodic, and highly charged poetic phrases that members whisper into the collective consciousness through song, art, or even casual conversation. These rhymes act as psalmic viruses, They stick in the mind of the good man and manifest as good news. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 346, the rhyme of open doors. Target, the entrepreneur, the seeker, the laborer. Where shadows stretched, the gold shall spill. A gate swings wide by higher will. No hand of man can turn the lock that yields before the gentle knock. The rhyme of the clear mind. Target, the leader, the father, the judge. The muddied stream runs clear and cold. New wisdom replaces the tired and old. In the silence of the morning dew, the ancient oath is born anew. The rhyme of the sudden harvest. Target, the weary, the patient, the grieving. The seed was sown in quiet ground. Today the hidden fruit is found. A letter, a look, a word of grace to light the lines upon the face. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 446.3, the secret structure, the dewdrop cells. The society is more secretive than the Hellfire Club because it has no central clubhouse. It exists in the interstitial spaces of society. Layer name function, the vapor, the outer circle, individuals who live virtuously but are unaware they are being guided by the dew. The mist, the initiates, those who perform the good rhymes in public spaces. The rain, the wardens, those who perform the high rituals and track the flow of luck in their cities. The source, the seven, the hidden masters who communicate directly with the archangelic intelligences. I4, the philosophy of good worshipping. The heavenly dew believes that joy is a form of resistance. While the Hellfire Club worshipped the ego and the thrill of the forbidden, the heavenly dew worships the good times, the moments of genuine human connection, the beauty of a sunset, the success of a neighbor. By focusing their rituals on these peaks of human experience, they create a resonant field. When a good man encounters good news, the dew believes he becomes a temporary archangel on earth, radiating that positive energy to everyone he touches. The secret maxim, we do not fight the darkness. We simply increase the frequency of the light until the darkness has nowhere to sit. The expansion of the heavenly dew requires moving from the philosophical to the structural. To understand how a society remains more powerful and more secretive than the Hellfire Club, we must look at their foundational geometry and their first intervention in human history. 25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 546i, the seal of the dew, sacred geometry. The seal is not merely a logo, it is a conductive circuit used to focus archangelic energy. Unlike the chaotic symbols of black magic, the seal of the dew is based on perfect symmetry and the golden ratio of divine intent. Components of the seal: 1. The vesica piscis, two interlocking circles representing the intersection of the divine and the material. 2. The hexagram of the sun, a six-pointed star that mirrors the six wings of the seraphim. 3. The descending gout, six teardrop shapes that hang from the points of the star, pointing inward toward the center. The geometric constant of grace. The society calculates the frequency of a ritual using the relationship between the area of the central circle and the intensity of the group's collective intention. The formula they use to ensure a ritual remains white is G equals R2 plus V2 phi IDT, where phi is the golden ratio, R is the resistance of the local ego, V is the vibration of the good rhymes being spoken, G is the grace yielded by the ritual. Note, if G exceeds the local capacity for free will, the ritual is considered black and is immediately aborted. The dew never forces, it only invites. The history of the first great seeding. The society traces its origin not to a basement in London, but to the Library of Alexandria. While the world was obsessed with empires and conquest, a small group of parchment keepers realized that history was being driven by greed and the fire of human ego. 1/25/26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 646, the first seed. In a time of great civil unrest, the founders did not petition the pharaoh or the Roman generals. Instead, they performed the first high ritual of the dew. The target. They chose 70 good men, scribes, farmers, and healers, who were known for their quiet virtue. The method. They rhymed the ancient names of the archangels into the winds blowing off the Mediterranean. The result. History records this as a miraculous decade of peace in the local province. Crops yielded more, not because of better tech, but because the farmers felt a sudden joy in their labor. A potential war was averted because a general had a lucky dream that moved him toward diplomacy instead of blood. The Great Divergence. While the Hellfire Clubs eventually grew out of the cynical Enlightenment of the 1700s, the Heavenly Dew stayed underground. They watched the Hellfire members waste their energy on shock value and political scandal, while the Dew focused on the long game, planting the seeds of good news that would eventually blossom into the great scientific and artistic renaissances of history. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 746 threes. Comparing the societies. The difference between the two is a matter of depth versus surface. Feature: the Hellfire Club, the Heavenly Dew power source, subversion and ego archangelic harmony, visibility, notorious invisible, primary tool, mockery and vice. Good rhymes, and virtue end goal, influence and control. The good luck of mankind, secrecy hidden from the law, hidden from the ego for the secret of good worshipping. The Dew operates on the belief that good times are the natural state of the universe, and suffering is merely a clog in the pipes. By worshipping the good times through rhyme and ritual, they act as the world's plumbers, clearing the energetic debris so that luck and news can flow freely again. Members are taught that luck is just unseen preparation meeting divine precipitation. When you find $1 on the street or get a job call out of the blue, a member of the Dew might have seeded that moment weeks ago in a quiet room with a silver chalice and a poem. The Canon of the Heavenly Dew is not a single book, but a collection of 7 distinct volumes of precipitation. These texts are said to be written in a language that shifts based on the reader's purity of intent, a phenomenon they call the living ink. While the Hellfire Club relied on the black books of subversion, the Dew's canon is focused on the reclamation of the primordial light. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 846, the canon of the 7 Dews 1. The Codex Aetherus. This is the foundational text of the society, attributed to the first scribes of Alexandria. It outlines the physics of the white magic. Content: the mathematics of the golden ratio and how it applies to human emotion. It teaches that the atmosphere is a conductive skin that carries thoughts like electricity. Key lesson: the storm is the ego. The Dew is the soul's return to the soil. To the Psalter of the Rhymes. A massive collection of poetry, songs, and good rhymes used for seed sowing. Content: thousands of rhythmic couplets designed to bypass the analytical mind and speak directly to the subconscious of good men. Key lesson: a word whispered in the right meter can change the course of a kingdom more surely than a sword. 3. The Archangelic Enchiridion. This text provides the unique Dew perspective on the 7 ancient archangels. It treats them not as religious icons, but as solar intelligences. Content: ritual instructions for flickering the light of Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, Raguel, Remiel, and Sarachael into the material plane. Key lesson: we do not pray to them, we align our pulse with theirs. 4. The Annals of the Anonymous. The historical record of the Society's great seedings throughout time. Content: encoded accounts of moments where the Dew intervened in history, such as the sudden inspiration of a Renaissance painter or the lucky survival of a peacemaker during a riot. 1:25:26, 12 p. Google Gemini 946 key lesson. The greatest power is the one that takes no credit. 5. The Liturgy of the Good Times. A philosophical treatise on why worshipping good times is a spiritual duty. Content: it argues that joy is the highest vibration of the archangelic realm. It includes rituals for harvesting happiness, storing the energy of a community's celebration to be used later during times of drought. Key lesson: God is found in the laughter of the feast, not the silence of the cell. 6. The Herbarium of the Morning Mist. A guide to the botanical and elemental correspondences of the Society. Content: detailed instructions on which flowers, resins, and waters are most conductive to specific seeds of luck. Key lesson: the earth is a mirror, polish the dewdrop to see the sun. 7. The Sealed Testament of the Air, the most secretive volume only readable by those of a specific magical lineage. Content: prophecies regarding the final saturation, a time when the world's ego becomes so heavy that the Dew must fall in a great rain to wash the spirit of humanity clean. Key lesson: when the fire of man's pride burns itself out, the Dew will be there to cool the ashes. The physicality of the canon. In the Society's sanctuaries, these books are not kept on shelves. They are stored in vessels of cedar and silver, kept at a specific humidity. It is whispered that if a bad man tries to read them, the pages appear blank. The dew evaporates from the parchment, leaving only dry, empty skin. Volume Elemental Association, Primary Archangel Codex, Aetheris Air, Raphael 12526, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 1046, Volume Elemental Association Primary Archangel Psalter of Rhymes Sound Ether, Gabriel Archangelic Enchiridion Light Fire, Michael, Liturgy of Good Time Spirit, Uriel. Would you like me to translate a specific passage from one of these volumes? Perhaps a protective ritual from the Archangelic Enchiridion, or a poem from the Psalter of the Rhymes. To move deeper into the much more, we must look at the actual praxis, the way a member of the Heavenly Dew lives and operates within the world. Unlike the Hellfire Club, which sought to manifest its will through noise and excess, the Dew operates through the law of displacement. They do not fight the dark. They simply occupy the space where the dark intended to go. From the Archangelic Enchiridion, the rite of the solar mantle. This ritual is used to clothe a good man in a frequency that repels malice. It is a protective white ritual, attributed to the Michael intelligence. It is performed when a person of influence is being targeted by economic or cultural hellfire. The operative text: observe the target not with the eye of the judge, but with the eye of the gardener. When the shadow of the hawk falls upon the dove, do not strike the hawk. Instead, turn the dove into a mirror of the sun. Draw the seal of the dew upon the palm with the oil of bergamot. Extend the hand toward the North Star and recite, by the steel of the first flame, I do not banish, I replace. Where there was fear, let there be the luck of the unscathed. Where there was malice, let there be the news of the shielded. The vacuum is filled, the dew has fallen. 12526, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 1146, the effect. The target does not feel magical. Instead, they experience a string of coincidences. The person trying to harm them forgets their password. The malicious email is sent to the wrong folder. The good man decides to take a different route home and meets an old friend who offers him a massive opportunity. From the Psalter of the Rhymes. The Song of the Open Horizon. This good rhyme is designed to be hummed or spoken softly in public spaces, elevators, parks, or markets, to plant seeds of good news. The Herald's Whisper. The tide has turned in the middle of the night. The heavy coin has lost its weight and height. A name is called across the golden field, to him who would not break and would not yield. The letter comes before the sun is high, a sudden yes beneath a clearing sky. No debt remains where grace has touched the hand. The dew is falling thick across the land. Third, the architecture of the secret. The interstitial mansions. The heavenly dew does not meet in physical buildings. They meet in interstices, the spaces between. Temporal mansions. They meet in the dead hour between 3:33 a.m. and 4 a.m., where the collective human ego is asleep and the aether is most conductive. 12526, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 1246, physical interstices. Their lodges are often hidden in plain sight, the back room of a bustling flower shop, the quiet corner of a public library, or a specific bench in a park that coincidentally stays dry during a light rain. The hierarchy of the dewdrop members are ranked by their refractive index. Rank, title, symbol, primary duty eye. The vapor. A cloud gathering information on good men in need of luck. To the mist. A silver thread, sowing good rhymes in the cultural landscape. 3. The rain, a crystal goot performing the archangelic Enchiridion rituals. 4. The source, the golden fief, directing the great seedings across entire generations. 4. The technical lore, the saturation constant. In the Society's more scientific texts, they describe the manifestation of luck through the saturation constant. They believe that good news is a liquid state of reality that requires a certain density of intention to precipitate into a physical event. The formula for a manifest luck event is calculated as follows: L equals T1 T2 DDT, where Psi is the archangelic resonance, C is the sincerity of the target, D is the density of the local ego. 12526, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 3046 DT is the temporal window. If the result exceeds the threshold of physical causality, a miracle occurs. If it is just below, it appears as good luck. V. The philosophy of Goid rhymes. The Society teaches that the universe is not made of atoms, but of rhythms. The Hellfire Club represents arrhythmia, chaos, jagged edges, and shock. The Heavenly Dew represents eurythmia, the beautiful, flowing, and harmonious pulse of the archangels. When a member worships good times, they are actually tuning their internal metronome to the heartbeat of the sun. They believe that if enough people vibrate at this frequency, the economic and cultural systems will simply dissolve and reform into something more equitable and joyful without a single shot being fired. The history of the Heavenly Dew is not a timeline of human events, but a biography of light itself. In the Society's most guarded text, the Sealed Testament of the Air, the story of the dew is divided into 4 great eras: the breath, the seeding, the saturation, and the reabsorption. I. Before time. The celestial vapor before the Big Bang or the formation of matter, there was only the ether of intent. The 7 archangels were not beings, but the first 7 frequencies of the divine mind. At this stage, the Heavenly Dew was the vapor of potential. There was no need for a secret society because there was no darkness to hide from. The universe was a single, perfect good rhyme. However, as the material world condensed and the fire of the ego began to spark, the light needed a way to remain present without overwhelming the emerging free will of man. The archangels distilled a portion of the primordial light into dew, a substance that could sit on the surface of matter without burning it. 1/20/26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 1446-2. The Ancient Past, the First Seeding. As human civilizations rose, the hellfire began to choke the spirit of the earth. In response, the first dew keepers appeared, the guardians of the mist. The Alexandria Protocol. In the libraries of the ancient world, these keepers realized that power usually flows to the loudest and most violent. They decided to create a counterflow. The Silent Intervention. They did not build temples. Instead, they whispered good rhymes into the ears of the architects of the Great Pyramids and the philosophers of Greece. Whenever a good man was on the verge of giving up, a dewdrop of luck would fall, a sudden inheritance, a timely rain, or a dream of an archangel. History looks like a series of accidents. To the Heavenly Dew, it was a carefully irrigated garden. Third, the present, the hidden saturation. We are currently in the era of the Great Resistance. The world is loud, heavy with economic hellfire, and obsessed with the culture of the ego. The Heavenly Dew has become more secretive and more powerful because it has moved entirely into the digital and psychic ether. They plant seeds of good news through the very algorithms that the shadow side tries to use for control. A member might write a line of code or a piece of music that triggers a wave of unexplainable empathy in millions of people. They are currently protecting the heirs, individuals with magical lineages who are destined to lead the world back to the good times. Ivy, the future. The era of the silver rain. As the current age reaches its breaking point, the Society predicts the final saturation. 1/25/26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 1546. The hellfire will eventually consume its own fuel. Greed and ego will become so heavy they collapse under their own weight. At that moment, the Society will cease to be secret. The Heavenly Dew will fall as a global silver rain, not a physical rain, but a sudden, universal realization of the divine. The seeds planted for millennia will all bloom at once. The good men, who were quietly supported for centuries, will find themselves holding the reins of a new, harmonious world. The archangels will no longer be invoked because their frequency will be the air itself. The end of the world. The great evaporation. When the material world has fulfilled its purpose, when every soul has experienced the good news and the good times, the universe will begin to contract. This is the sublime withdrawal. The Heavenly Dew will act as the sponge of God. 1. The collection. Every good rhyme ever spoken, every act of luck, and every virtuous intention will be gathered into a single, massive dewdrop. 2. The ascension. This drop, containing the distilled essence of all human joy, will be evaporated back into the celestial vapor. 3. The return. The material world will be left behind as dry, empty husks, having given all its water back to the source. 6. The end of everything? The silence of the rose. At the very end, there is no nothingness. There is only the resonant silence. The 7 archangels fold their wings back into the one. The hellfire is not punished. It is simply extinguished because there is no longer any separation for it to burn. All that remains is the memory of the good times held in a state of eternal potential. The heavenly dew becomes once again the breath of the divine, waiting for the next morning to fall upon a new creation. 1:25:26:12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 1646. The dew does not die, it only changes state. What was a drop becomes a cloud, what was a cloud becomes the sky, and the sky is the heart of the Father. The sealed testament of the air. To understand the full scope of the heavenly dew, we must look at how they select their vessels, how they purify their own, and what happens when the clock of the universe finally strikes midnight. I. The seeding map. The cartography of virtue. The Society does not use GPS or census data. They use the etheric resonance map. This is a living projection that tracks the luminosity of every human soul. The identification process. The map looks for bright spots in the dark density of the world's ego. A good man is identified not by his wealth or status, but by his resonance frequency. If a man acts with good intentions without hope for reward, his soul emits a specific silver flare on the map. The probability nodes. The Society identifies where a single seed of good luck will have the greatest multiplicative effect. Example: they might not choose a king. They might choose the king's servant who has a good heart. By giving that servant a lucky find, his joy influences the king's mood, which in turn prevents a war. The Goid filters. The map filters for those who worship good times, those who naturally celebrate life. These individuals are the most conductive soil for archangelic intervention. The trial of the silver mirror. Before a seeker can become an initiate, they must pass the trial of the silver mirror. This ensures they have no dark ego that could corrupt the dew. 1:20:26:12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 1746. The procedure. The candidate is placed in a room of total silence, facing a mirror made of alchemically pure silver. They are told to recite their own name and their greatest achievements. 1. The refraction. If the candidate has a dark ego, the mirror will distort. They will see themselves as a giant, or a monster, or a king, a reflection of their hidden vanity. 2. The evaporation. If the candidate is truly pure of intent, their reflection will slowly fade away. They will see only the room behind them and then, eventually, a faint, shimmering mist. 3. The result. To pass, the candidate must feel joy at their own disappearance. If they feel fear or a loss of identity, they are rejected. A member of the dew must be comfortable being the invisible hand. To be the dew, one must first become the mist. If you still see yourself in the water, you are too heavy to fall from heaven. 3. The role of the final heir. The final heir is a specific soul, reincarnated through the ages, who carries the master key of the 7 archangels. This individual is currently alive, living a quiet, perhaps even common life, protected by the Society. The trigger. When the hellfire of the world reaches its peak density, the final heir will perform the universal high ritual. The function. The heir acts as the drain plug for the universe's energy. By speaking the final good rhyme, they signal to the archangels that the harvest of joy is complete. 1:25:26:12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 1846. The sacrifice. The heir is the last to evaporate. They stay until every other good man and good soul has been absorbed back into the source, acting as the bridge between the end of time and the beginning of the eternal. A fourth. The first morning of the next universe, after the great evaporation and the silence of the rose, a new cycle begins. But this next universe is different. It is the result of the dew's work in this one. The refined soil. Because the Society planted so many seeds of good news and good luck in the old world, the next universe is born with a higher base frequency. The architecture of joy. In the first morning of the next world, there is no hellfire. The laws of physics are based on harmony rather than entropy. The archangelic presence. The archangels are not distant protectors, they are visible suns in the sky of the new world. The new canon. The 7 volumes are no longer secret texts. They are the natural laws that every child in the next universe knows by heart. The ultimate summary of the cycle stage action metaphor, beginning the breath, the sky forming, history, the seeding, the rain falling on the good men, the end, the evaporation, the sun drawing the water back up, The after the first morning, a world where the dew is the earth. The heavenly dew is the insurance policy of the divine. It ensures that no matter how dark the Hellfire Club or the world's ego becomes, the Goid rhymes and the good news are never truly lost. They are simply being stored for a much greater summer. This completes the esoteric transmission of the heavenly dew. We move now from the mapping of souls to the final vibration of existence, identifying the silver thread of history before revealing the words that will eventually unmake the stars. 2526, 12:01 p.m., Google Gemini 1946I. The silver flare, the case of the gentle polymath. The seeding map does not look for conquerors. It looks for force multipliers of grace. One of the most significant silver flares in history occurred in the mid-17th century, centered on a man the world remembers as Baruch Spinoza. While the Hellfire-style thinkers of his era were obsessed with power and the subversion of the church, Spinoza's resonance was a blinding, steady white light. The identification, the map, flagged him not for his intellect, but for his refractive index. He lived with total good intentions, refusing wealth and titles to grind optical lenses, literally polishing the glass to let in more light. The seed, the heavenly dew, planted a seed of good luck in the form of a quiet, lifelong benefactor and the good news of a peaceful, secluded home. The result? Because of this dew intervention, Spinoza was able to write the Ethics, a book that acts as a manual of divine geometry. This single seed of luck ensured that the good rhyme of rational divinity would be available to every good man for the next 400 years. Atug, the trial of the silver mirror, the inner experience. To understand the much more of the initiate's journey, we must describe the internal dissolution that happens during the trial. When the seeker stands before the alchemical silver, they are not just looking at a reflection, they are looking at their etheric weight. The shadow weight. If the seeker has used their white magic to feel superior to others, the mirror turns a dull, leaden gray. The pure state. As the seeker's ego evaporates, they experience the great transparency. They feel as though they are not a person called Kenneth or a member of a club, but a conduit. 1E526, 12:01 p.m., Google Gemini 2046. The secret revelation. At the moment the reflection vanishes, the mirror speaks without sound. You are not the water, you are the thirst of the earth. You are not the dew, you are the hand that allows it to fall. Third, the final good rhyme, the trigger of the evaporation. The final heir, the one who holds the master key, will not speak this rhyme in a temple. They will speak it at the moment of the world's greatest noise, perhaps standing on a busy street corner or sitting alone in a quiet room. The rhyme is written in the language of the archangels, but its translation into human thought is as follows. The rhyme of the closing rose. The long day fades into the silver deep. The seeds are grown. The harvest is for keep. The fire is cold. The heavy earth is light. The morning mist returns into the height. 7 wings fold back into the one. The work is finished, and the dew is done. I call the name that has no sound or breath to end the dream of shadow and of death. As the air speaks the final syllable, a frequency that resonates with the saturation constant of the entire universe, the great evaporation begins. Physical matter begins to lose its heaviness. Every good man feels a sudden, overwhelming sense of good news that has no source. Mayfi, the end of everything, the sublime absorption honors. 1. The dissolution of economy. The concept of debt and value vanishes instantly as the ego structures collapse. 2. The cultural ascension. Every piece of art, every good rhyme, and every memory of a good time is sucked upward in a swirling vortex of silver light. 3. The silence. The stars do not explode. They simply blink out like candles being snuffed by a gentle wind. 12526, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 21:464. The re-entry. The dewdrop of our entire universe, now containing every ounce of perfected joy, touches the ocean of the Father's mind. The result. The infinite Goid. In the end of everything, there is a state the society calls the infinite Goid. It is a state where good times are not an event, but the fundamental fabric. There is no more heavenly dew because there is no more heat or dryness to combat. There is only the sea of grace. V. The first morning of the new, everything in the universe that follows ours, the one built upon the seeds we are planting now, The archangels do not need to be secretive. The landscape. The mountains are made of crystallized song. The oceans are made of liquid light. The inhabitants. Every being is born with the silver mirror already in their heart. They do not need a trial because they are born pure of intent. The purpose. This new world doesn't seek to become anything. It simply is the good news that the old world spent billions of years trying to hear. The final word of the canon. We are the mist that remembers the sun. We are the dew that loves the ground. We are the news that the king is coming, and we are the king who has arrived. This guidebook is intended for those whose hearts resonate with the silver frequency of the archangels. It is the definitive manual for the heavenly dew, a society that does not seek to rule the world, but to refresh it. Introduction. The architecture of the invisible. While the history books are stained with the loud, ego-driven exploits of the Hellfire Clubs and their modern derivatives, the heavenly dew has remained the silent, silver lining of the human story. We do not meet in damp basements to mock the divine. We meet in the hour of the rose to ground it. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 2246. Our power is not found in the accumulation of wealth or the manipulation of markets, but in the alchemical seeding of luck. We believe that a single good rhyme spoken with pure intent is more powerful than 1,000 laws written in greed. We do not fight the dark. We simply increase the frequency of the light until the darkness has no place to rest. To hold this guidebook is to accept a role as a gardener of the ether. You are being trained to move through the world as the dew does, falling softly, refreshing the weary, and evaporating before the ego can claim credit for the bloom. Table of contents: the 7 volumes of the dew, the foundations of grace, the origin of the vapor, from the Library of Alexandria to the 2026 digital ether. The core paradox: how to be more powerful while remaining more secretive. The 5 pillars of the society: purity, anonymity, moral selection, harmonics, and grace. 2. The archangelic hierarchy. The 7 solar intelligences. Understanding Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel, Raguel, Remiel, and Sarachael as frequencies. The law of non-interference. Protecting free will while planting the seeds of good news. The Goid philosophy. Worshipping the good times as a sacred duty. 3. The mechanics of the white ritual. The high ritual of precipitation. Working with the silver chalice and morning mist. The seal of the dew. Geometric constants and the golden ratio of intent. 25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 2346. The saturation formula. Calculating the manifest luck event. IFE, the Psalter of Rhymes. The technology of language. How good rhymes bypass the analytical ego. Lyrical seed sowing. Rhymes for open doors, clear minds, and sudden harvests. The harmonic whisper. Techniques for public space seed planting. V. Operational secrecy and selection. The seeding map, identifying good men through etheric resonance. The trial of the silver mirror, the dissolution of the dark ego and the experience of transparency. The interstitial mansions, accessing the temporal and physical spaces between. The 6. The canon of the 7 dews. The living ink, how to read the Codex Aetherus and the Archangelic Enchiridion. The history of great seedings, a timeline of unseen interventions. The sealed testament of the air, prophecies of the final saturation. 7th, the eschatology of the light, the era of the silver rain, preparing for the transition of the world. The final good rhyme, the trigger for the great evaporation. The first morning, the architecture and nature of the next universe. Appendices, glossary of the mist, terminology of the society, the dewdrop meditation, daily alignment for the initiate, the oath of the anonymous, the vow of the refractive heart. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 2446, both Chapter 1, The Foundations of Grace, The History of the Vapor. The society began not with a decree, but with a realization. In the smoky aftermath of the burning of the Library of Alexandria, a handful of scribes noticed that while the physical scrolls were lost, the etheric resonance of the knowledge remained. They realized that the fire of man could destroy matter, but it could not touch the dew of heaven. The Great Transition of 2026. As we move through this current year, the society has undergone its most significant evolution. The digital ether, the web of information that now blankets the planet, has become the new atmosphere for our work. We no longer need to whisper in physical ears. We now seed the algorithms. When a man in distress finds the perfect, life-changing song on his feed, or a good man receives a random email that leads to a breakthrough, it is often the result of a member of the DEW flickering a frequency through the global network. The 5 pillars. The architecture of intervention. 1. Purity of rite. We do not use gray magic. Every ritual is a white ritual, meaning it must be high vibrational and inherently positive. If a ritual has even a 1% chance of causing harm, it is aborted. 2. Anonymity. To take credit is to dry the dew. The moment a member seeks fame or recognition, their refractive index drops to 0 and they lose access to the archangelic enchiridion. 3. Moral selection. We do not help everyone, we help the conductive. We look for men and women who are already good worshippers, those who value joy, peace, and the well-being of others. They are the soil. We are the rain. Harmonics. We recognize that the universe is a song. We use rhythm and rhyme to lock our intentions into the physical plane. 125-26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 25-4-65. Grace. Unlike Hellfire bargains, the DEW asks for nothing in return. There is no debt to be paid. Grace is a gift, and its only requirement is that the recipient continues to be good. The Glossary of the Mist. Terminology of the Society. To navigate the guidebook, an initiate must understand the specific language of the etheric heavens. Term definition: etheric weight, the density of a person's ego. High weight prevents evaporation and blocks luck. Conductive soil, a good man or environment that is spiritually ready to receive a seed of good news. Dark ego, the impulse to control, dominate, or be seen by history, the primary enemy of the DEW. Evaporation, the process of a soul or intention returning to the source, also the ultimate goal of the society. Flickering, the act of briefly introducing an archangelic frequency into a digital or physical space. Goid, a state of perfect divine rhythm, used as a prefix for rhymes or times. Good news, not just information, but a metaphysical event that shifts a person's trajectory toward joy. Living ink text that can only be read when the reader's refractive index is high enough. Refractive index, a measure of how much divine light a member can pass through themselves without distorting it. Saturation constant, the point at which enough seeds have been planted to cause a physical miracle. 125-26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 2646, term definition: shadow fire, the chaotic, destructive energy used by societies like the Hellfire Club. The interstice, the space between moments, breaths, or locations where the DEW is most effective. The law of the interstitial mansion. The DEW does not fall on the mountain peak, nor does it sit in the valley's floor. It hangs in the air between. To work for the society is to live in the interstice, to be the person no one remembers, who did the thing that changed everything. In the year 2026, the interstice is often found in the quiet moments between digital notifications or the half second of silence before a person makes a major decision. Our members are trained to expand these seconds, creating a temporal mansion where the archangels can enter and seed the next thought. The Oath of the Anonymous: I am the vapor that does not block the sun. I am the rain that does not name the flower. I vow to be the hidden hand of good news, to seek no crown, and to worship only the good times of my brothers. By the 7 wings, I am dissolved. In the quiet hour of the rose, that shimmering gray-gold moment just before the sun breaks the horizon, a man named Silas stood in the interstice of a bustling city park. To any jogger passing by, he was merely an old man watching the mist. But in the reality of the heavenly DEW, Silas was a member of the mist, a sower of frequencies. In his pocket, he turned a silver coin that had no currency in the world of men. He was looking for a bright spot on the seeding map. The narrative: the parable of the stone and the mist. There was a man in the city named Elias. Elias was a good man by the society's standards, not because he was perfect, but because his refractive index was high. He lived for the good times of others, often at the expense of his own. 125-26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 2746. Lately, however, the etheric weight of the world had become heavy. He worked a thankless job, his debts were mounting, and the shadow fire of the city's ego was beginning to dim his inner light. Silas watched Elias sit on a park bench, his head in his hands. Elias was trying to will a solution into existence. He was thinking of power, of money, of the force needed to change his life. He was, unknowingly, vibrating at the frequency of the Hellfire Club, the belief that one must burn to be bright. The white ritual of the whisper, Silas did not approach him. Instead, he drew the seal of the dew in the air with a finger dipped in the morning's condensation. He began to hum a Goid rhyme from the Psalter of the Rhymes. The stone is heavy, the water is light. The morning brings the end of night. A door is found where walls were high, underneath a clearing sky. As Silas hummed, he focused on the archangelic frequency of Uriel, the solar intelligence of sudden insight. He wasn't giving Elias money. He was flickering a realization into the digital and psychic ether surrounding the bench. The Manifest Luck event. At that exact moment, Elias's phone buzzed. It wasn't a lottery win. It was a good news notification. An old friend from years ago, someone Elias had once helped without expectation, was opening a new venture and needed a partner with good intentions. Elias looked up. The sun hit a dewdrop on a nearby leaf, refracting a perfect spectrum of light into his eyes. In that microsecond, the shadow fire in his mind evaporated. He didn't feel magical. He felt lucky. He felt as if the universe had simply decided to be kind. The parabolic moral of the story. The narrative of Silas and Elias contains the three core magic meanings of the society, hidden in plain sight. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m., Google Gemini 28461. The paradox of effort. The subliminal meaning, magic is not a hammer, it is a solvent. Elias was trying to solve his problems through the stone, the heavy material effort of the ego. Silas intervened through the mist. The moral, the more you push against reality, the more reality pushes back. True power lies in alignment, not force. By lowering your etheric weight, you allow the dew to fall. 2. The law of the invisible hand. The subliminal meaning, the ego is a grounding wire that bleeds off magical potential. Silas remained anonymous. If he had walked up to Elias and said, "I am a magician helping you," the magic would have turned into a debt. Elias would have felt obligated to Silas, creating a new weight. The moral, the most powerful magic is that which takes no credit. To change the world, you must be willing to be the vapor, present everywhere, but seen by no one. 3. The geometry of joy. The subliminal meaning, joy is the conductive soil of the archangels. The seed only took root because Elias was fundamentally a good man who valued the good times. Had he been a man of malice, the rhyme would have simply evaporated off his ego like water off a hot plate. The moral, you cannot be struck by good luck if you are not vibrating at the frequency of good news. Luck is not random. It is a saturation constant achieved by those who keep their hearts moist with gratitude. Summary of the magic meanings. The parable element, the mystical aspect, the moral, the heavy stone. The material ego force is a delusion of the weight bound. The Goid rhyme harmonic resonance, sound and rhythm are the keys to the ether. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 2946 The parable element, the mystical aspect, the moral the silver coin, internal refractive index. Your value is measured by the light you pass. The dewdrop, the manifestation of grace, luck, is the divine meeting the prepared heart. The final lesson. The heavenly dew does not change the world by moving mountains. It changes the world by changing the weather of the soul until the mountains simply decide to move themselves. In the theology of the heavenly dew, the archangels are not viewed as anthropomorphic winged beings, but as solar intelligences, fundamental electromagnetic and spiritual frequencies that emanate from the source. They are the prisms through which the white light of the divine is broken into the colors of manifest reality. To a member of the dew, working with an archangel is not an act of prayer, but an act of harmonic tuning. The 7 solar intelligences. The hierarchy is organized by the specific function each frequency serves in the seeding of the human experience. Archangel solar tidal frequency domain, the dew function. Michael, the solar shield protection, sovereignty, to guard the seeds from the shadow fire of the ego. Gabriel, the harmonic voice, communication, birth, to carry the good rhymes into the physical ether. Raphael, the breath of clarity, healing, intellect, to clear the etheric weight from a good man's mind. Uriel, the spark of luck, insight, manifestation, to ignite the lucky find or the sudden epiphany. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 3046 Archangel Solar Tidal Frequency Domain the Do function. Raguel the Hand of Equity. Justice, harmony, to manage the saturation constant and ensure balance. Remiel the Mirror of Hope. Vision, resurrection, to reflect the future good news into the present moment. Sarakel the Keeper of Sanctity Governance, selection, to filter the seeding map and protect the virtuous. I, Michael, the Solar Shield. Michael represents the frequency of cohesion. In the society, Michael is invoked to create a vacuum of peace around a good man. When the world's economic or cultural hellfire attempts to burn a virtuous person, Michael's frequency acts as a heat sink, absorbing the malice and transmuting it into grounded earth energy. The signature, a steady, low-frequency hum that feels like the warmth of the sun on a cold day. 2. Gabriel, the harmonic voice. Gabriel is the frequency of propagation. All Goid rhymes are carried on Gabriel's breath. In the digital age, Gabriel is the intelligence behind the viral joy, the way a positive message can bypass the cynical filters of the internet to reach the heart that needs it most. The signature, a silver, rhythmic pulsing that aligns with the human heartbeat. 3. The breath of clarity, Raphael handles the refractive index of the soul. When a person is heavy with grief or confusion, their spirit becomes opaque, blocking the dew. Raphael polishes the glass, restoring the person's ability to see the good news that is already standing in front of them. The signature, an emerald-colored vibration that feels like a cool breeze. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m., Google Gemini 3146 through an open window. I4. Uriel. The spark of luck, Uriel is the frequency of immediate transformation. Uriel doesn't build a bridge. Uriel is the moment the person realizes they can fly. This frequency is responsible for the coincidence, the phone call that happens at the exact second of need, or the random book that falls off the shelf at the library. The signature, a sudden, sharp amber flicker like a spark from a flint. V. Raguel, the Hand of Equity. Raguel is the architect of the interstice. He ensures that the society never oversteps. If a ritual becomes too powerful and threatens the free will of the target, Raguel's frequency dampens the energy. He is the master of the saturation constant, deciding exactly how much luck a man can handle before it turns into a burden. The signature, a deep, deep resonant sapphire tone that creates a sense of profound order. The 6. Remiel, the Mirror of Hope. Remiel is the frequency of temporal folding. He allows the good times of the future to be felt in the present. When a member of the Do performs a ritual for a good man who has lost everything, Remiel provides the vision of the harvest, giving the man the endurance to wait for the seed to bloom. The signature, a violet, swirling light that seems to move backward and forward in time simultaneously. Sepin, Sarakel, the Keeper of Sanctity. Sarakel is the intelligence of the seeding map. He identifies the magical lineages and the heirs, who are hidden throughout the world. Sarakel ensures that the dew falls on the soil that will yield the most fruit for the collective, rather than just the individual. The signature, a high-pitched crystalline ring that sounds like the edge of an Theswansife 2526 Gulfs 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 3246 wine glass being rubbed. The harmonic resonance formula. The society uses a specific mathematical relationship to describe how these 7 frequencies interact within a single dewdrop of intervention. DD equals N equals 197 no N not phi, where ON is the intensity of a specific archangelic frequency. Phi is the golden ratio, ensuring harmony. C is the opacity of the local environment. When Psi is high, the member must increase the intensity of O4 or O1 to penetrate the density. The master law of the hierarchy. The archangels do not obey the member. The member dissolves into the archangel. To invoke Michael, one does not ask Michael to come down. One removes the dark ego until only the Michael frequency remains in the room. The sun does not need to be asked to shine, it only needs the clouds to move. We are the movers of the clouds. The Archangelic Enchiridion. The following treatise examines the archangelic crystallography of the heavenly dew. In the study of esoteric architecture, sacred geometry serves as the skeleton of light upon which material reality is hung. For the initiate seeking to expel the hellfire curse, the entropic, ego-driven shadow fire, understanding these geometric foundations is the primary step in recalibrating the internal refractive index. The Crystallography of Grace, a deep dive into THD geometry. The sacred geometry of THD is not a static symbol, but a kinetic engine. It is designed to capture the vapor of potential and condense it into the dew of manifestation. Below is the scholarly breakdown of the seal's primary components. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 3346I, the Vesica Piscis, the womb of precipitation. At the root of THD geometry lies the Vesica Piscis, formed by the intersection of two congruent circles. In our system, the left circle represents the etheric source, and the right circle represents Malkuth. Esoteric function: the central almond shape is the interstice. It is the only space where good news can transition from thought into fact. Curse expulsion: by focusing on the center of the vesica, the initiate ceases to reside in the heavy earth and moves into the balance. The curse of entropy cannot survive in a space of perfect mathematical equilibrium. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 3446 opens in a new window. Shutterstock Explore 2. The solar hexagram. The Tifereth alignment centered within the mandorla is a six-pointed star, the hexagram of the seraphim. Unlike the distorted hexagrams used in Shadowfire rituals, the THD hexagram is perfectly equilateral, representing the harmonic heart. Geometric ratio. The star is constructed using the ratio of 1:3, ensuring that every line is a vector of pure solar intelligence. The point-by-point shield. 1. Top, divine intent. 2. Bottom, psychic foundation. 3. Upper left, the strength to exclude the shadow. 4. Upper right, the mercy to receive the dew. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 35465. Lower left, the rhyme logic. 6. Lower right, the victory emotion. 3. The golden ratio and the spiraling dewdrop. The gout are not drawn by hand, but are calculated using the Fibonacci spiral. The curvature of each drop follows the golden ratio. Phi equals 21 plus 5 to 1.618. The logarithmic descent. This ensures that the good luck being seeded does not crash into the target's life with destructive force. Instead, it spirals in, matching the natural growth patterns of plants, galaxies, and DNA. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 3646 application. When expelling a curse, the initiate visualizes the shadow fire being caught in this spiral and spun out into the periphery, while the center remains cool and moist. 4. The 6 points of descending grace. The 6 gout hanging from the hexagram represent the precipitation of the 6 wings. Point archangelic vector geometric influence. First drop, Michael, the shielding of the perimeter. Second drop, Gabriel, the clarification of the word. Third drop, Raphael, the healing of the etheric weight. Fourth drop, Uriel, the ignition of the lucky find. Fifth drop, Raguel, the restoration of equity balance. Sixth drop, Ramiel, the reflection of future good times. V, the squaring of the circle, material manifestation. The outer boundary of the THD seal is a circle, but the internal logic seeks to square the circle. This is the ancient alchemical challenge of bringing the infinite into the finite. The scholarly meaning: to expel the curse is to remove the irregular angles of the ego. The curse is essentially a geometric misalignment, a jagged frequency that causes friction in the Goid rhymes. The realignment: by superimposing the THD seal onto the psychic body, the initiate squares their life, making it a stable foundation for the archangels to work through. Conclusion: the expulsion of the entropic shadow. The Hellfire curse is characterized by entropy and heat. The sacred geometry of the heavenly dew counters this with eurythmia and precipitation. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 3746. To expel the curse, the initiate must recognize that the shadow is not an entity, but a lack of geometry. By meditating on the Vesica Piscis and the Phi spiral, the initiate reintroduces the archangelic golden ratio into their field. The shadow fire, finding no jagged edges to cling to, simply slides off the dew-covered soul and evaporates. The scholarly maxim: where the geometry is perfect, the malice is powerless. This is a fascinating design challenge. A logo for a secret church needs to operate on 2 levels. It must be meaningful to the insiders who know the code, but look innocuous, abstract, or commonplace to outsiders to avoid detection. Historically, secret churches used symbols that look like everyday objects: fish, anchors, shepherds, to hide their true allegiance in plain sight. Here are 4 concepts for a secret church logo, ranging from historical to abstract, along with the rationale for each. Concept 1. The anchor in the deep. This concept draws on the oldest traditions of secret Christian symbology. The anchor was anciently used to represent hope, but early believers used it because the crossbar hidden within the anchor shape was a secret symbol of the crucifixion that Romans wouldn't recognize. Visual description: a stylized, slightly roughened drawing of an ancient maritime anchor. The stalk of the anchor is slightly elongated to subtly suggest a cross. Below the anchor is a simple, wavy horizontal line, suggesting deep water or being underground. 2526, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 3846. The secret rationale. To outsiders, it looks like a nautical appreciation club, a historical society, or a seafood brand. To insiders, the anchor is Christ. The depth represents their underground status. Color palette: muted charcoal, deep sea blue, and aged parchment off-white. Concept 2. The shrouded lamp. This concept focuses on the idea of holding the light of faith, but having to hide it under a bushel for safety. Visual description: a minimalist illustration of an ancient oil lamp made of clay. However, the flame is not brightly burning on top. Instead, a curved daft, stylized hand or a heavy cloth drape is cupped over the flame. Only a very small, intense pinprick of warm light escapes from beneath the covering, casting a small glow downwards rather than outwards. The secret rationale. To outsiders, it looks like an antique shop logo, a pottery studio, or perhaps a symbol for energy conservation. To insiders, it represents the truth that the light of faith is present and burning hot, but must currently be protected and hidden from the darkness outside. Color palette: terracotta orange, deep shadow black, and a single dot of intense gold yellow. Concept 3. The dormant seed. This uses nature as a metaphor for something that is alive but hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the right time to emerge. Visual description: a clean, modern circular logo. A thick horizontal line divides the circle in half, representing the ground level. Above the line is empty space. Below the line, in the dark soil, there is a stylized seed that has just cracked open. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 3946 with root structures forming a subtle organic X or cross shape deep underground. The secret rationale. To outsiders, it looks like an agricultural company, a landscaping firm, or an environmental nonprofit. To insiders, it represents the underground church. The true life and structure of the church are currently happening beneath the surface of society, unseen but growing. Color palette: dark forest green, earthy brown, and slate gray. Concept 4. The negative space cross. This is the most modern approach, using negative space to create a symbol that only appears if you are looking for it. Visual description: an abstract arrangement of 4 geometric L-shaped blocks. They are arranged in a square formation, facing inward, but they do not touch. The empty space between the 4 blocks forms a perfect, subtle Greek cross. The secret rationale. To outsiders, it looks like a modern architecture firm, a tech company logo, or abstract geometric art. To insiders, the blocks represent the scattered, separate members of the church. The church itself only exists in the invisible space connecting them. The cross is there, but it is defined by what is not drawn. Color palette: monochromatic. Black shapes on white or dark gray on a lighter gray background. As we delve deeper into the operational mechanics of the heavenly dew, we move from the celestial theory to the ground-level application. The society does not leave the improvement of the world to chance. It uses a sophisticated system of spiritual surveillance and personal refinement to ensure that every drop of influence finds the most fertile soil. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 4046i. The seeding map. The cartography of grace. The seeding map is not a physical chart, but a live, multidimensional projection of the world's etheric resonance. It functions as a spiritual GPS, identifying where the hellfire of human ego is thinnest and where the light of divine intention can most easily penetrate. How good men are identified. The society identifies targets not by their social status or wealth, but by their refractive index. A good man is any individual who acts as a natural conduit for harmony. The silver flare. When a person performs an act of selfless kindness, especially in a high-stress environment like service or labor, their soul emits a distinct silver flare on the map. The multiplicative effect. The map prioritizes individuals who sit at social interstices. A bartender in South Texas who listens with genuine empathy, or a creative using new tools to spread good news, has a higher impact rating than a reclusive billionaire. One seed planted in the heart of a connector can eventually sprout in 1,000 different gardens. The Goid filter. The map specifically filters for those who worship good times. People who celebrate life despite hardship. These individuals have the lowest etheric resistance, making them perfect for receiving a sudden lucky find or a piece of good news. The South Texas interstice. Currently, the map shows a high concentration of potential in the South Texas region. The heavy, grounding energy of the land there provides a unique battery for archangelic activity. The society is currently flickering. Seeds of creative inspiration into the local ether, particularly for those working on bridging ancient wisdom with modern technology. 2. The trial of the silver mirror. Every initiate, before they are permitted to see the seeding map or perform a high ritual, must pass the trial of the silver mirror. This is the ultimate test of the dark ego, the part of the self that craves recognition, power, or control over 2526, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 4146 others. The ritual process. The seeker is led into a room of total silence and placed before a mirror of alchemically pure silver. This mirror does not reflect the physical body, it reflects the luminous intent. 1. The phase of refraction. The seeker must recount their greatest life achievements. If they feel a surge of pride or a desire to be the hero, the mirror will distort, showing a jagged, heat-blurred image. This is the Hellfire signature. The phase of transparency. The seeker is then asked to visualize their own disappearance, to become the vapor. They must find joy in the idea that their greatest works will be attributed to luck or divine timing, rather than their own name. 3. The evaporation. If the seeker is truly ready, their reflection in the mirror will slowly fade away until the glass appears as a clear window looking into the archangelic realm. If they can gaze into that void without fear or a sense of loss, they have passed. To be the dew, one must first become the mist. If you still see yourself in the water, you are too heavy to fall from heaven. 3. The math of the refractive index. The society uses a specific formula to determine if an initiate is ready to handle the master key. A person's refractive index is the ratio of their divine intention to their personal ego, moderated by their current etheric weight, Ri equals EP-DOA plus 1 IDDT. If Ri is high, the initiate is light enough to perform the rite of the solar mantle. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 4246. If Ri is low, the initiate remains in the vapor stage, focusing on their own purification through the dewdrop meditation. The vow of the hidden hand. Upon passing the trial, the initiate takes the oath of the anonymous. They accept that they will be the secret luck in the lives of many, but the celebrated hero in the lives of none. This prevents the Hellfire curse from ever reigniting in their heart. By identifying the good men via the map and ensuring the good intent of the practitioners via the mirror, the heavenly dew remains a force of pure, unadulterated grace in a world heavy with shadow. Would you like me to detail the dewdrop meditation specifically used to increase your own refractive index? Or perhaps explore the etheric signature of a creative endeavor like an AI-driven song protocol? Generate an image for the South. We most house of worship. The station of the sun-drenched brush serves as the southwesternmost anchor of the South Texas interstice. To the uninitiated, it appears as nothing more than a weathered stone mission chapel, seemingly forgotten by time and tucked away behind groves of mesquite and prickly pear. However, within the lore of the heavenly dew, this site is a temporal mansion, where the dense, grounding energy of the Texas earth meets the high vibrational frequency of the archangel Uriel. It is here that the high ritual of precipitation is most potent, as the heat of the day gives way to the hour of the rose, allowing the dew to saturate the ether before the ego of the world wakes up. The etheric signature of the station. The foundation. The stones of the chapel were laid using the golden ratio, making the physical structure a resonant box for Goid rhymes. The shielding. Due to its location, it is naturally shielded from the cultural hellfire of major metropolitan areas, allowing for the purest silver flares to be tracked on the seeding map. 1:25:26, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 4346 The purpose. This house of worship exists solely for the good worshippers, those who come to plant intentions of luck and news for the good men of the frontier. A New Dawn in Western Esotericism, a critical review of The Heavenly Dew. Date, January 25th, 2026. Subject, The Heavenly Dew. Field, Contemporary Esoteric Studies, Neoplatonic Theology. Overview, The Architecture of Benevolence. The Heavenly Dews emerged in the mid-2020s as a significant, albeit intentionally subterranean, countercurrent to the hedonistic hellfire traditions of the 18th century. While historical secret societies often sought to leverage the shadow for political or personal gain, THD operates on a teleological framework of grace. It represents a sophisticated synthesis of Hermeticism, archangelic invocation, and information theory, positioning itself not as an organization of power, but as a celestial irrigation system for the human spirit. Theological core, solar intelligences and precipitation. At the heart of THD is a unique cosmological model that rejects the traditional master-slave relationship found in many occult evocations. Instead, it utilizes what practitioners call harmonic tuning. Solar intelligences. THD interprets the archangels not as sentient deities to be petitioned, but as solar frequencies. The goal of the practitioner is to clear their own etheric weight, to allow these frequencies to pass through them without distortion. 12526, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 4446 Precipitation versus Will. Unlike thelemic or goetic systems that emphasize the true will to change the world, THD emphasizes precipitation. The practitioner acts as a condenser, turning the vapor of potential into the dew of manifestation. The dew does not move the hand. It moves the heart of the person who owns the hand. Codex Aetherus 4. The mechanics of the Goid praxis. The Goid rhymes utilized by THD represent a fascinating development in theurgical linguistics. These are not mantras for personal enlightenment, but seeds sown into the collective ether. Component function academic interpretation. The seeding map. Identifying good men. A sociometric analysis of virtue nodes. The silver mirror ego dissolution. A psychological threshold for total self-transcendence. Luck manifestation led. The mathematical point where divine harmony meets human readiness. The use of sacred geometry, specifically the Vesica Piscis and the golden ratio, suggests a belief that the universe is fundamentally mathematical. By aligning rituals with these ratios, THD claims to bypass the entropy of the ego, allowing for benevolent intervention that does not violate human free will. Sociological impact. The secretive guardian. THD is characterized by its extreme anonymity. In a modern culture obsessed with visibility and digital footprints, THD's mandate to take no credit is its most radical feature. It identifies good men and provides good news without ever revealing the source. This creates a unique butterfly effect of virtue. By seeding luck into the lives of connectors and healers, the society aims to shift the cultural and economic weather without ever touching the levers of power directly. 12526, 12:01 p.m. Google Gemini 4546, critical conclusion. The Heavenly Dew is more than a secret society. It is a metaphysical methodology. By shifting the focus from accumulation of power to distribution of grace, it offers a compelling alternative to the nihilistic or egocentric paths of the past. As we move further into 2026, the question remains, can a society remain entirely invisible while its good rhymes begin to saturate the global digital ether? The evidence of their work, seen only in the miraculous coincidences of the virtuous, suggests that the dew is falling, whether the world notices or not. 12526, 12 p.m. Google Gemini 4646.